First, you got to go check for Sterling Shepard. He's above that 50% threshold, but only by 2%. So he's out there in 48% of leagues right now. I would be dropping 30, maybe $40, especially if I need a wide receiver right now to go get Shepard. Once again, 10 catches. The target share has been insane across his last 5 healthy games this year, and then dating back to last year. In fact, it goes all the way back to 7 games. He's seen 10 plus targets in all but one of them, 9 plus catches in 5 of 7. I mean, the guy is a slot maven, killing it. Another 10 catches, 76 yards. So standard leagues, it's not quite as valuable, but still fantastic stuff here from Sterling Shepard. 14 targets with Tony going down. And Tony, they're saying it is a more serious than a simple sprain type of situation. He was immediately ruled out. So you got to imagine this could linger, and Shepard will just be right back into that de facto number 1 role. If and when Tony returns, I mean, we did see on that first drive, he was targeted on 3 of the 5 dropbacks. He was an alpha. He was getting open at will. I still love Tony as a player. I think he is the number 1 guy here if and when he's healthy, but we just don't know what the seriousness is of that injury. So you got to go check for Sterling Shepard first and foremost. Now, getting into guys that are under 50% rostered in Yahoo leagues. And again, as always, get your questions on in. Wolfpack thumbs up to help us get out to more people. Share it on out. Would mean the world. But we'll answer everything as we get to the end. We'll be about 20 minutes or so as we get through these players. JD McKissic, 42% rostered right now. I would be spending 18 to, depending on your need, 25%. And some of you guys might even be like, I need the running back so desperately. I'm throwing 30 in there. And I can't blame you at this point. Gibson was forced out of action due to this flare-up with his shin, in and out on the bike. Didn't do anything special when he was in there. 44 yards and a fumble. Just a disgusting day. Meanwhile, we saw McKissic, 61% snap share with Gibson going in and out. He saw 16 touches, 8 carries, 8 catches, ultimately racking up over 100 yards, 110 yards on those 16 touches. This is the situation. Oh, he's game script dependent, right? Well, they're giving up the most points in the league right now. The Washington football team is. So this is going to continue to be the script, and the touches will only be higher should Gibson miss time. Now, granted, we'll talk, and there's going to be a couple of these in a row about like dual backfields with injuries going on. If Gibson misses time, I do imagine Jaret Patterson, a rookie over here, only 1% rostered and worth about 2 to 3% of your fab, in my opinion. He could end up becoming one of the early down ball carriers here for the Washington football team. And he was a darling this preseason, if you don't remember. He was dominating, 16 carries, 71 yards, and a score, 25 yards through the air coming against the Bengals. Then he also had 70 yards on 14 touches against the Pats. He was getting it done in the preseason. A guy that is intriguing, a big body, churns after contact, but can also catch. Something to pay attention to. They do get Green Bay at bottom 5 in rush DVOA. We just saw them get destroyed by Khalil Herbert. I think there's a lot of similarities between Patterson's profile and Herbert coming into last week. Just a guy to stash, see what happens with Gibson, see how this all shakes out. But McKissic, either way, is going to be heavily involved because they're facing the Packers. They're going to need their points. The Packers will certainly destroy this team through the air, as every team has done all year. And that means you'll get a ton of JD McKissic action, my number 1 back, and it's not really close. Now, in terms of a 1-week stopgap plug-in fill-in, Dearness Johnson's about as good as it gets, only 3% rostered, so almost a lock to be out there for you. If you're desperate for a running back fill-in this week, I'd say you got to spend 15, maybe even 20% of your fab. And we'll also talk about Demetric Felton, my number 9 pickup of the week, 6 to 8% fab, in my opinion. Let's talk about the Browns, though. Their ground pie has been astronomical yet again after leading the league in all meaningful categories last year. They're first in attempts, 194, first in rush yards, 10,000. Yeah, imagine that. 1,011 yards. Yards per carry, 5.2, and TDs, 12. Leading the league in every single meaningful category. That averages out to 32 attempts a game, 168 yards per game, and 2 TDs per game. Now, yes, of course, Chubb and Hunt are a big part of those huge totals. They're the best 2 backs and a duo backfield in the entire league. But so much of the success is also due to the number 1 line in the league, the best zone blocking scheme you could ask for, and just a shit ton of volume in this Brown scheme. With Baker Mayfield banged up, I imagine they're going to continue to hammer the run relentlessly against Denver. Now, that's a tough matchup. You're 28th in terms of points allowed, not a great spot. We also have word their tackles could be out, both of them. That would not help either one's case. But with Kareem Hunt on the IR, carted off, going to be a while, and Nick Chubb already ruled out, you at least know about 30 touches are out there for grabs to be distributed, and it's going to go to these two guys. Dearness would be my favorite to be the first man up. He's the only other back with a carry on this team so far this season. And last year, he actually looked pretty damn solid when he got action. 166 rushing yards on 33 carries. That's over 5 yards a pop. People rule out the fact that this guy's actually a pretty decent receiver, too. 10 catches on 12 targets for 92 yards. But in college, he led USF for all-purpose yards, running back reception 73, and running back receiving yards 909. So the guy can get it done, Dearness Johnson, in all facets of the game. That all being said, the team did draft Demetric Felton, a wide receiver running back convert, who also had a dynamite college performance with leading the Pac-12 in all-purpose yards, 165.8 per game. Under Chip Kelly, was converted to that running back dual threat guy. It lackluster speed for both of these guys, not crazy athletic profiles, but both intriguing guys that can get it done in both facets that, again, will benefit from the scheme. Give me Johnson first, going to be the goal line guy, first man up there. But Felton, he might have a longer tail of usability, given that Chubb's going to come right back, take that Johnson role, whereas Felton might slide in as that Kareem Hunt rest of season, or not rest of season until Hunt is back at least. Could be Johnson again when he's a capable receiver. My money would be on Felton. They've also talked about working in the slot a bit more. Both of these guys, well worth ads. You're going to have to spend much more to get Johnson, whereas Felton will be a little bit cheaper to go get. Now, this isn't going to be similar to most lists, but my number one receiver ad right now is Marquez Callaway, 34%. I think he was worth 10 to 12% of your fab. Most are going to recommend and recognize the three guys I have below Callaway. But let me make my case for this guy. 4 catches for 85 yards and 2 scores the last time out. Yeah, about half of those yards and a score came on a Hail Mary right before the end of the first half. But that's kind of what this team does. They love slinging it deep. Jameis attempted his most pass attempts of the year, over 30. We'll talk about Jameis as an ad in a little bit. But also the neutral script. It was by far their fastest pace and most pass-happy script. And Callaway, with MT a couple weeks away, and I think this guy's going to continue to milk this. He does not want to play this year. I think this is going to shape up. Callaway's starting to come out of his shell. He's had 2 great weeks. Great, obviously a little bit of an oversell, but compared to what he was doing at the beginning of the year, much more productive. He's starting to be able to handle that number one attention. Remember that hype storm he was getting every single day, making highlight plays, putting up 150 and 2 TDs and a half of action. Like, that ability is still there. He's had a murderer's row of defensive matchups to start the year. Now he gets Seattle, 6th most points allowed, Tampa Bay, 3rd most points allowed, Atlanta, 2nd most points allowed, and Tennessee, the most points allowed. All bottom 10 defenses across his next 4, which I imagine NT misses. So it's as much of a bet on his number one receiving role in the Saints offense as it is the schedule too. Huge stream ability. I think this guy's going to go on a tear for this next 4-week stretch until MT's back. And I think even when MT's back, there's going to be a little bit of usability here with MT now commanding the number one corners. He might even shake free for a bit more. I'm just kind of banking on the Saints unleashing Jameis a bit, especially if Taysom Hill lingers. But if you want a little bit more like upside and uncertainty and that'll make you tingle a little bit, Rashod Bateman, only 27% rostered. He's also worth about 10 to 12% fab. I think most experts would recommend him above Callaway. I'm intrigued by Callaway's rest of season outlook, or at least these next 4 weeks. But Bateman as a whole season-long stash could be very intriguing. He ran a route on 67% of the dropbacks, and he led the team in wide receiver targets with 6. He saw more targets than Hollywood Brown. The box score isn't anything sexy, 4 for 29, but 22% target share in the first game when he wasn't going to be tossed into the fire by Greg Roman. That's heavy involvement right there. 17.1 routes per game out of the slot. It could be intriguing here. He ran 61% of his routes from the slot in 2020. He also has tons of experience out at the boundary in 2019. He was an 87% boundary guy. He's played both. You can move him all over the place. So even if Watkins returns, I think we'll see a lot of Bateman action here. Very intriguing player profile. Showed no issues with draw. I mean, he just looked like you could get open pretty easily. Showed strong hands, some contested grabs. Brings a new element to this offense. Still think Hollywood's very viable, but very intrigued by Bateman. Also, Darnell Mooney, maybe, again, for many people, might be the top of the 3 receivers I just talked about. I don't want to bank on Justin Fields, whose season high for passing was like 150 yards so far. I don't want to bank on that too much, but Mooney has seen 28% target share under Fields across these 4 starts. He has a 16 and a 15-point day on his resume in his last 3 games, 1 dud mixed in there. And now he gets Tampa Bay, one of the leakiest secondaries. Again, as we were just talking about, 4th most points, a league high 41.8 pass attempts because teams are always trailing. I am intrigued by Darnell Mooney being this de facto number 1. It seems pretty clear he's the go-to guy over Allen Robinson. Maybe that flips at some point, again, adding to the risk of Mooney. I think of the 3 guys we talked about, I'm most concerned with Mooney just disappearing on any given week because of he's tied again to a Justin Fields offense. But I love the target share. I love the production so far. An intriguing ad worth about 8 to 10% of your budget. What is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments, check out some more videos, and join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.